Unbreakable is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the director of Signs and The Sixth Sense. It stars Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Robin Wright, and Spencer Treat Clark. The film is about a security guard named David Dunn who survives a train crash which kills all passengers on the train except for him. He emerges without a single scratch on him. And after this, he is approached by a mysterious man named Elijah Price, who begins to question David and suggests that he may have special abilities. And we all unanimously love this movie.
Yes.
This is pretty much all around the clock one of our all-time favorite films. We're reviewing this for a very specific reason, for something coming up soon. And let me tell you, we all unanimously love this film. So, we
highly suggest it.
Highly suggest it. We cannot talk about this movie without addressing spoilers. There is so much in this movie. There really is no point in talking in generalities about this film. You have to talk full spoilers, so we're doing that. This is a spoiler review. You've been warned.
But in short, this is a movie directed by M. Night Shyamalan. In my opinion, this is probably his best film, both that he's written and directed. It has amazing performances, it's beautifully shot, has beautiful music. It is an all-around stunning film. If you haven't seen it, you really need to take the time to do so.
See it, please. It is fantastic.
And if you don't want spoilers, then we'll give you something over here or down below that will lead you out of the spoiler section and just onto our reviews.
So moving on to spoilers at this point.
Alright, we're going to talk in characters because Unbreakable is a movie about characters and relationships. That's the key of this film. There are not that many characters in this film, but the characters who are focused on in depth. Gavin, the character who you love is David Dunn. So what do you think about David Dunn?
David Dunn is played by Bruce Willis, and he gives a fantastic performance in this. He plays this character who just is so humble and almost doesn't want to believe that he's a superhero, and for the majority of the film he doesn't believe that he's a superhero. And it just gives you this, he just shines nobility and just honor and purity. And he's such a nice character to just spend time with throughout the entire movie, and just see him develop in this, am I a hero, am I not a hero, am I just a normal dude, or am I something more? And he's constantly being questioned by Elijah Price, and you just get to see his development as a character, and it's so great. It's so great. Bruce Willis knocks it out of the park.
You love him for his down-to-earth nature. That's what's so great about him. He does not believe himself to be anything more than a normal man. But since he really is, that's what's so special about him.
He is.
It's kind of like what Quentin Tarantino said. Quentin Tarantino said that he wishes that the marketing department had considered a different tagline for this movie, which is, what if Superman lived in the real world and didn't know he was Superman? That in many ways is a great description of of David Dunn.
That brief review might be one of my favorite reviews for Unbreakable. It perfectly encapsulates the film. Superman, but he doesn't know he is. And that is so great because David Dunn is fantastic.
Yes.
One of my favorite characters is a side character who easily could have just been offed into a side role that doesn't have much significance. And that is David's son, Joseph. And Joseph is a character who is well realized. He is fantastic. What's so special about Joseph is that he loves his dad. Even though he's trying to convince his dad that he's a superhero because David does not believe himself to be a superhero. It's that David doesn't believe that kills Joseph. He wants his dad to believe that he's special because Joseph already feels that his dad is a superhero.
Yeah.
And the scene which I absolutely love, and Gavin addressed this after I saw it, and I remember seeing that, I was like, he gets it. It is the ending scene with the newspaper slide across. It is right after David moonlights for the very first time as a superhero. He has a full cloak on, and it's so amazing. But what's even more emotionally satisfying than when he chokes out the orange man is when Joseph, and his wife are all just having breakfast
for the first time. They're they're being civil.
Joseph sits down and he's a little concerned. He's like, "What's going on here?" And then David is sitting there. Joseph pours some orange juice, and then he just slides the newspaper over across him, and Joseph just sees it's that, and the tagline says, "Hero."
And
you
there's
see
a bunch of little things on the side, annotations that are like hero. This guy saved him, and it's screaming superhero. Just
And
it's screaming it out of the paper.
And there's no dialogue, but it's just the eyes and the contact, and
Eyes and the
you
single
see it in the way
tear.
that they're going. And
It's
just
such a beautiful way to just depict this father-son.
yes,
Because this is a son who absolutely worships his dad.
Yes.
And it's the story of it's I mean there's a superhero element to it, but this is really a story about fathers and sons growing closer through this extraordinary set of circumstances.
yeah, the relationship between parents and their children, which is something that connects to you because you love Elijah. Elijah is the antagonist of this film technically, but at the same time, you don't know that until the third act. So Elijah
Elijah
Talk about
Price
Elijah Wood.
is easily one of my favorite characters in any movie I can think of. He's played masterfully by Samuel L. Jackson, but the scene that really stands out to me is a scene that takes place because there are a couple of flashbacks in this movie. Two of them are about Elijah's life. One of them is how the movie begins, when it depicts his really horrible birth that really introduces us to the fact that Elijah has a very poor lot in life, which is he has a genetic disorder which his bones are extremely brittle and easily broken. And there's this flashback that it goes to his childhood where he is broken in yet another bone. He's desperately alone. He's bullied at school, and there's a scene where it's very clever. Almost every scene with Elijah is shot
through glass.
with glass or
Yes.
reflections.
It's shown through a reflection of glass, which
it's
is a
shot
very
through
creative
reflection.
and unique design that
There's this beautiful shot where he's looking at a TV. You can see his arm in a cast, and his mother comes up from behind him, and he just tells his mother, "I'm bullied at school. I don't want to do this anymore." And his mother tells him, "I have a gift for you, but you have to go outside." And he has to go across the street, and he opens up this beautifully wrapped purple present, and it has his first comic book in it, and it's
which you eventually see later inside the shop.
inside the shop. And
which connects to his future.
and I love what I love about this is it's a scene that is all about that character. It's not Samuel L. Jackson, the scene, it's a younger actor, but it shows the relationship between him and his mother, which is really the key relationship in his life.
Yeah.
He grew up in a terrible situation, in a situation that he has no control over, and his mother is the one that says, "You need to get outside, you need to live,
Yes.
you need to not choose to be afraid." And the character that we see later in the movie, played by Samuel L. Jackson, is the character who's chosen not to do that.
Yes.
And it has been for the character's benefit, and in probably the case of many of the characters he's come across, it's not to their benefit.
And there's a small thing where he's going down little ramps inside of his wheelchair, and he's doing it so fearlessly. I'm like, I would be getting a bit more careful there if I were you.
I did
And
notice
he's
that
just
this
doing-
time around. The second ramp leading to where he eventually shakes David's hand.
Yeah.
He went down there very fast, and it's not that he's reckless, but he isn't afraid of anything. He faces down everything, and he makes his decisions very
He's
clearly.
experienced so much pain in his life. What is there left to be afraid of? Even when you see him in this horrible scene experience great pain,
The staircase.
I do want to
still
talk about
has
that.
power
You
in
talked
that.
about the scene with him and his mother. You talked about the scene with the paper slide. I want to talk about the staircase scene. Now that's a scene that the entire time that Elijah's going down the stairs, chasing after the man with the silver gun, you know he's going to fall. You know he's going to fall. You just don't know when. And the first time that I watched it, and the time that I watched it just now, it still took my breath away when you eventually get him slipping and it just takes your breath away. It's beautifully shot. It's brilliantly done with him going down the stairs and him breaking every bone in his body.
Yeah.
It's the direction, the way that shot is filmed.
And then at the end, you get him on his back, having probably the worst pain that anyone's experienced before, and you get the man with the silver gun. He has his little shirt go back, and you see it. You see the gun, you see the black handle, you see the silver, which David Dunn predicted and knew, and it's all worth it for him. You see it in his face. Samuel L. Jackson did that so well.
Yeah.
That's one of that's the genius of the characters inside of this film, is that they're both searching for something. David claims that he wakes up feeling this feeling of sadness within him. And Elijah is searching for purpose, for meaning in his life. He feels that he was a mistake. He has this genetic disorder. That's the thing about them. They find each other. They're both trying to find meaning. And it's through their interactions that they discover meaning. And like, as tragic as it is in the ending, ultimately Elijah got what he wanted. His evil plan, as it were, it worked. He made a hero.
His evil plan really is finding a hero. He was willing to become the villain in order for the world to gain a hero.
It's not even really a story about heroes and villains. This is a story about two friends who find each other, and they need each other. They need each other to find out who they really are.
Yeah.
And the tragedy of Elijah is he finds out he's the villain. But he's happy because he's found something. He's found something that can matter in his life. He's found what his purpose in life is, as horrible as that purpose is.
That is something which turned a lot of people off when this movie was first screened in theaters, and that's something we're going to talk about. Rotten Tomatoes, the score's in the 60th percentile. We all think that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the consensus says, with a weaker ending, Unbreakable is not as good as The Sixth Sense.
It literally says that on the Rotten Tomatoes score. Not as good as The Sixth Sense.
It's a terrible way to look at this, and ultimately that's the trouble. This movie ends where most superhero films, the beginning of the third act begins. This movie ends where usually there's this setup, and it almost seems like that.
Yeah.
It almost seems like this leads to this monologue where he has this secret weapon that's going to destroy the Earth, but that does not happen.
No.
He surrenders.
It's
The
It's
conflict
not
isn't
even a
about...
surrender. It's just kind of him admitting what he's done.
Yeah.
It's kind of...
the evil plan. The evil plan has already happened. He's already caused the accident that revealed that David can't be hurt. That is the extent of his plan. And the rest of the movie is those characters coming to grips with where they now lie in the world as a result of that. I think what stands out to me with that specific criticism is that it's focusing on the twist.
Yes.
The Sixth Sense is well known to have a great twist ending.
Yes.
But that is not the point
No.
and the power of The Sixth Sense. The Sixth Sense has a real emotional power behind its characters and where their emotional climax is.
Yes.
There is a surprise ending, but the surprise is primarily for us, the audience.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the disappointing things that has been attributed to Shyamalan is that he's the master of the twist ending.
It's all about the twist.
It's
not-
all about the
It's
twist, and
not,
and you
though.
lose it, and you lose the fact that he's an incredible at writing climaxes to characters,
Yes.
character stories, and that's where I think this film really really shines. Like, I know that we want to talk about a lot of things.
Yes.
One of the things I'm really interested in talking about is cinematography.
Yeah,
And
let's-
how the movie is shot, because I think that there's a lot that you can say about how this movie is kind of like structured and written, but the way it's shot is really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
We
moving-
noticed this inside of our watching of it for this, multiple times for us.
Glorious Blu-ray this time.
Yes.
Oh, it looks so great. First time I saw it on Blu-ray.
Every shot looks like something that you could picture in a comic book.
There
It
are
looks like a comic book.
Yes.
It looks like one.
lots of long takes, lots of wide shots. I noticed that. There's lots of zoom outs, zoom ins, and just
Not a lot of cutting the camera.
No.
There's
A lot of zooming in, zooming out, but the camera does not cut.
that car wreck scene. I noted this out to Gavin during
It's
it.
one take, and it's like 3 minutes.
You would imagine
Oh wow, really?
it would
Yeah,
make
it's
sense.
like 3 minutes of David Dunn getting up, getting her out of the car passing by. It's one take.
I didn't even notice that.
It could
Something-
basically be play. It could basically be a play.
Something
Wow.
about that scene feels like there should be like 3 cuts in
Yeah.
there. You almost
Yeah.
substitute those cuts in your mind, but they don't. It's
They
not
don't happen.
cut. And yeah,
Oh,
so
that's
many long
fabulous.
takes. This movie really does look like a comic. It's not based off of
Yes.
any comic,
Yeah.
but the way that it's shot, the way the characters interact, it just feels like it's something that's an adaptation of a comic.
Something we were watching this with my dad earlier. Something that he pointed out that I didn't notice is there's a scene where David and Elijah are talking at the stadium, and you have a long shot of them from far away, and they're kind of silhouetted against the sky. And my dad pointed out, you know, it's funny, the way that Elijah's head looks, it's bigger than David's. And it's an
Yes.
allusion to something that they talked about earlier, where the villains in comic books always had these disproportionately larger heads than the hero.
And
I
the
didn't make that
eyes.
connection. The hair. I noticed he was taller than him. Holy cow! What you just said is
Right.
true. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. Okay.
It's the way it's shot, the way that unique stylistic elements are put in. It just adds to the whole experience.
Yeah.
So much.
You can dissect
foreshadowing.
this. We could dissect this for hours.
And and what's great about this is a movie that technically has so much going for it, and there's so much that adds to the flavor of this movie, and we absolutely have to talk about James Newton Howard's.
All right,
Yes.
that'll be our last thing. Let's talk about the music. Holy cow, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Let me note something out. I never get chills. I never get chills in any movie. Even when they have like the Avengers
I
thing
feel
blaring
sorry
when
for you,
Thor
my
comes
friend.
down, I like never get chills in this movie. The first scene, right after he had Elijah say, like the first scene, Elijah's birth, he has broken arms, broken legs. When the music cuts in, just I got chills.
Yeah.
I don't get chills. I got chills.
There's a great interview with Hans Zimmer where he talks about working with James Newton Howard on the Batman films with Christopher Nolan. And what I love is that Hans Zimmer gets a lot of credit for those movies, but Hans Zimmer is very open about the fact that he only takes credit for half the music in those movies, the big blaring action beats. He gives James Newton Howard's full credit for all the quiet scenes, the scenes where the music is not obvious, but it's giving you so much that you need to feel close to those characters. This is a movie that he scored alone, and it has a real heartbeat to it,
Yeah.
where you feel
A soul.
it's part of the movie. It's not on top of the movie. It's not been spliced in weird ways. It's a part of this movie. You could not possibly have this movie exist without it. It is
never.
purely part of the identity of the movie.
The music is brilliant. So
And it would seem like an odd choice. It would seem like an odd choice of music because it doesn't seem very.
It's not very superhero.
It doesn't seem very superhero.
It's not
It
outspoken.
almost seems like something that you'd see in like a gangster movie. It seems like that kind
It's
of
dramatic. It's
beat.
very just straight drama.
Yes.
It's straight drama with a bit, but it gets a bit heroic at the end in a way that
Oh
is great.
yes,
And,
that
yeah.
music is just
epic.
epic.
Yeah.
All right, so ratings here.
Well,
Gavin?
no, we don't. Not
Yeah.
ratings yet. We want to talk about M. Night Shyamalan for crying out loud.
We could give a little bit of time for him. He wrote and directed this movie. It's beautifully written. It's got a lot of callbacks during relationships. Like I love the relationship between David and his wife,
Yeah.
but wraps up beautifully with this idea that David simply wants his wife to tell him it's okay,
Yes.
that he's not in a nightmare, and they have this beautiful resolution of their simmering conflict throughout it. And there's a lot of callbacks that come out, and you just feel emotionally close to these characters. And it's put together in a way where you don't notice it.
Mhm.
This is a movie that is so well done, you don't notice how much of it. Like even that little shadow bit with the bigger head, like we never noticed that.
Yeah,
before.
lots of foreshadowing. Something else that I loved is the multitasking with the plot. I was mentioning this to you. The train scene, the opening scene, which is all just one take, them cutting back and forth between the seats. You learn in that scene that David is not so happy with his marriage. He takes off his wedding ring. You also learn that he is afraid of water and that he doesn't like football, really. All of those things are spliced into a conversation, which makes sense. It does not feel like exposition. It all adds up, and it's fantastic storytelling.
Yeah.
So
That is one actually scene that I like and dislike at the same time. You guys disagree with me on this. I think it kind of takes away from his character. It doesn't seem like he's in character in that when he's like kind of flirting with that, because he's not cheating on his wife.
I think it
It
Can I
shows.
speak to
seems
this?
kind of odd.
Please go
You can
first.
speak to this.
One of the key things that we learn early on about David is that he wakes up every day and he's unhappy, and he doesn't know why. And he speaks about this sadness that he feels, and I think that scene makes sense in the context of that.
Yeah.
He's unhappy and he doesn't know why, and he's trying to
kind of fine.
find his happiness.
Yeah, I guess
And
so.
and I don't think that he actively wanted
No.
to cheat on his wife, but he was looking for that happiness that he later finds in the movie.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what another scene that's similar to that is the drug scene, like when he guesses wrong about the guy at the
Oh,
security.
yeah.
That's another time when
Just
he's
that
actually
shot.
wrong.
Yes.
He makes a poor choice per se. That's
Yeah.
another great. instance of when showing that David is not a perfect
Both
character.
the character and the audience are trying to figure out for themselves: is this true?
Yes.
Is this real?
But
And
we
that's a
don't
scene
know.
that kind
Because
of
there really
throws
isn't
uncertainty into
there
it.
really isn't anything definitive in the movie that's like this. He is a superhero, absolutely, 100%.
Except for
ends
him
kind of like-
lifting 300 pounds.
Yeah, there's nothing that is there's no Superman flying sequence.
No,
There's no Spider-Man swinging sequence. There's no moment.
there's no discovering your power. There's
No.
discovering your purpose.
Yes, this is a movie about people trying to find their purpose in life, and they do.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
All right, so let's get into ratings here.
Let's
Gavin, you're up first.
I'd say it's a 10 out of 10.
It's 10
Definitely
out
a
of
10
10.
out of
Okay.
10. This movie is amazing, and it's a masterpiece. It really is. It's a masterpiece, beautifully done, beautifully shot, beautifully scored by Hans Zimmer. It's just beautiful. James Newton Howard. I suck. Sorry, internet. It's a masterpiece. It is a masterpiece.
I am going the same. I'm going a 10 out of 10. Let me tell you, I've mentioned it. This is a movie about relationships. It is a superhero film, but it's not a film which can be classified under the typical superhero genre. It's not something that a person who frequently watches MCU movies is going to watch and say this is a superhero movie, because it really isn't. It's about relationships between people and how those impact the characters. And that's what's so fantastic about this movie, and why a long-awaited sequel is coming, because these characters are so immortal.
Yeah.
And people rewatching this movie for the first time today, they're going to see how strong these characters are. That's what I love about this movie. The characters are fantastic. This is a masterpiece of character-driven filmmaking.
Yeah, easy. 10 out of 10. Probably the easiest one I've ever said.
Yay.
It's the height of everyone's career involved. I think this is the
Yeah.
best. I think this is the best character work that I've ever seen from Bruce Willis. This is certainly the best character work I've seen from Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't even have a chance to really talk about Robin Wright, who's a character I
Oh my
really love in
gosh.
this movie. And
We could talk about this for an hour.
absolutely.
We could.
And I think that M. Night Shyamalan, for having to follow up a film as good as The Sixth Sense, really knocked it out of the ballpark with how he wrote and directed this film. It is easily my favorite film he's ever done. I think it really finds a lot of beauty and stillness in this story about two men simply trying to find the purpose of their lives. And there are some heightened elements, there are some elements that are certainly not of this world, but it feels like our world. Like, one of the magic things about movies is that it's all about showing you something extraordinary, but giving you an emotional experience that feels tied to something human, something real. And this is a movie that really manages to weigh that fine line very well. This is a story about people who have something extraordinary about them, but it is also about their humanity, about their deep and powerful familial connections. And this is what cinema is all about, guys. And so absolutely,
Yeah,
great, phenomenal film.
absolutely. Definitely check this one out if you've not
Yes.
heard of it. If this is low on the radar for M. Night Shyamalan, boost it up. It is well worth your time,
Yeah.
and we all love it. So thank you so much for watching. This is Three Brothers Movie Reviews, and please subscribe to the channel for more videos in the future.
See ya.